Yanetrita Shetasen Nukheka Nubraku Nupara Nukheka Nukheka Discover Natarian philosophy through music, through video lectures, and through books by Sabai Dr. Muata Ashby. Peace be with you.
We'd like to welcome each and everyone and represent Dr. Muata Ashby and Dr. Vijaya Ashby to the proceedings this evening. Wish you God bless and Godspeed. Peace. Dr. Ashby.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Om Amurapta.
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 That's it. Every prayer to the great Trinity of Natarian theology. Today we're gathered to have an introduction to Natarian theology. As you can see here on the screen, Shetaut philosophy. Let me start the program. Shetaut theology. Most likely, most of you have not heard of the term Shetaut. Can anyone raise your hand to those who have heard it previously? Previous to this presentation this weekend. The term Shetaut. And the reason is, the aspirants who are in the study group are disqualified when answering that question. You should know what that is. Shetaut is the term, or the ancient African term, that most likely you have heard translated as the Egyptian mysteries. I'm sure you've heard Egyptian mysteries. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Most likely you do not know much about the Egyptian mysteries. You know that it's something that was practiced in ancient Egypt, something mysterious, perhaps something occult, something shrouded in mystery, in darkness. Something that you may have even told to shy away from. Yes? Some of you may have been told to fear. Yes? And this is one of the part of the great hoaxes that has been perpetrated on African culture. As you saw, those of you who attended the program last night, where I tried to show you the importance of our spirituality and the importance of, in particular, ancient Egyptian, ancient African philosophy. And the importance of that not only for African culture in Africa, but African culture outside Africa, and outside African culture really relates to all humanity in the larger sense. We are following traditions and philosophies that are leading us into ignorance and darkness and strife. And we need to rectify that. So today, we're going to have, like I say, an introduction to Natarian religion and African spirituality. I think you're going to learn several things that you have not known before. This is based on the current book that we have, African Origins of Civilization, as well as a new book which is going to be specifically addressing this particular lecture that I'm giving today. So this lecture is based on that new book, which is Principles of the Unitarian Religion and African Spirituality is a cover for the book, or the current proposed cover for the book. First of all, let us begin here, right off the bat, as they say, in the baseball term. Who are we? Some of you may be asking, you may have been wondering, what this is all about, what we're doing. Is this a philosophy school? Is this some kind of a cult? Is this some kind of a religious program? What is it? If you are coming to the class to study under me, or coming to the study group that is meeting here, and you go out into the street and somebody asks you, hey, what are you up to every Sunday when you go for a couple hours to this place? What are you doing over there? Something mysterious or something wild or something crazy? What is it that you're doing? What do you tell them? I'm in a cult. Or I'm doing some secret philosophy, knowledge stuff. And I said, no, this is not the church. This is not a cult. This is not New Age spirituality. Like you may walk up right down the street here and you'll see New Age spirituality going on. Trying to put all the spirit together and trying to say, oh, we are all one. And that's, I talked about it in the book. That is really a reaction to the oppression of Orthodox religion. Trying to move away from religion altogether. That's what the New Age movement is. And to some extent, it is not a spiritual movement so much as a kind of new form of religion in a sense. A true religion is a process that leads you through 3 steps. As you're going to see myth, ritual, and mysticism. If your religion does not have these 3 steps, then you're not practicing your religion. You saw that last night. If you have a myth, and you practice rituals related to that, and that is the extent of your religion, then your religion has not reached a mystical level of oneness with all creation. Then your religion stays at the level of ritual, and then you have to have a conflict with other religions that have rituals, and which is the best ritual? Which is the best myth? This is a source of strife between religions. We are practicing Kemetan African religion. That is how you can define it. There are 2 branches to our organization. One is the SEMA Institute. Under this branch, we have SEMA University, where we have a bachelor's degree program now for advanced education. The bookstores, the audio tapes, the videotapes. Everything that relates to the educational aspect is in the SEMA Institute. And on the other side, we have Temple of Shetaut, Temple of Set. In this side, we have everything related to the priesthood, spiritual counseling, initiations, spiritual worship programs. I want you to understand it that way so you can realize that we can be approached, or the teaching can be approached as a philosophy of life, a spiritual philosophy, or as a religion, as a spiritual religious process. So when you go out and somebody asks you what you're doing, what would a person practicing Yoruba religion say? What would a person practicing Buddhism say? I'm practicing African religion. Or I'm practicing Yoruba. Or you can say I'm practicing Unitarianism. If you choose to join the practice. Where was Shetaut practiced in ancient times? And it's very important for you to realize that this term, Shetaut, it comes directly from the scriptures of ancient Africa, from the Medu itself. It is not a made-up term. It is not a fabricated term from modern times. This is the actual term. The term Unitarianism is derived from the term Shetaut. Unitarianism means that it relates to, as we see the definition, it relates to the netter. And who's the netter? We're going to find that out just now. Where was this practiced in ancient times? In the land that is currently in modern times called Egypt. But in ancient times it was called Kemet. Kemet and Kush. We're going to see a little more detail about this slide later, but just to give you an understanding, this is the northeastern corner of Africa, and this is the Nile River. Along the Nile River, a certain civilization began to appear more than 12,000 years ago that became the Kemetan society. They themselves say that they came from the south, from the land of Kush, originally, as colonists. So the original ancient Egyptians, ancient Africans, were people of African descent. This was not a religion that was brought into Africa from Asia Minor or from Europe or from any place else. It's an indigenous African religion, as you're going to see. Early beginnings, the first religion. The Sphinx gives us the earliest history, the earliest recorded evidence of the practice of religion anywhere in the world. Shall I repeat that? The Sphinx has now been proven to be the earliest example of the practice of religion in human history. 10,000 BC. The first or the next religion appears in India, 2500 to 3000 BC. And we have shown in the book African Origins that there is a direct relationship between the Indians and the ancient Egyptians, ancient Africans. So much so that the basic tenets of Hinduism and Buddhism can be directly correlated to Shetaut. That's in volume 3 of the African Origins book. The Sphinx, giver of life, of stability, of power, the director of truth, the ruler of the upper and lower worlds, like the sun, forever and eternity. This is what was written about the Sphinx. Another misconception that you may have out there is that we don't know anything about the Sphinx. Horimake, first of all, is the correct name, not Sphinx. Sphinx is a Greek term. Horimake, Heru in the horizon. And the other name is Ra-Harakti. These names, or these words, especially Ra-Harakti, is used extensively in the pyramid text, the earliest spiritual text in the world. And so we have extensive knowledge about the Sphinx and the philosophy. One thing I want to point to you right now, so you can see, is the headdress that he has. The headdress is basically a reproduction or a metaphor for a lion's mane. The lion, or Leo, the symbol of Leo, is the astronomical symbol that was in the procession of the equinoxes at the time of the creation of the Sphinx, which is 10,000 BC. So this correlates with geological evidence. You following that? Who are the ancient Egyptians? Just one slide. Because some of you may not have been here for the last 2 nights, the last two programs that we've done. Very quickly, I'm not going to ask you who are the ancient Egyptians and who are the Nubians. I'm just going to tell you the 2 men in the rear are Nubians. The 4 men in front are ancient Egyptians. The most important aspect of this slide is so you can see that the hue of skin of both groups is exactly the same. There's no difference. Questions at the end, please. This picture, this is something I have not said, although all this is documented in the book. There's much more information that I'm giving you here in the book. I urge you to get the book and to study it closely, or to get on a program that we're going to be doing that's going to be a study program based on the book. This slide came from a tomb and this is a painting from one of the early European explorers who opened the tomb in the early 1800s, before there was photography. You follow that? He made this painting And if you realize that if anyone should have an agenda for showing things other than as they appear, it should have been early Egyptologists, but they did not do that. That came up with the later Egyptologists. This picture currently is now, if you go to the tomb where it comes from, it's very degraded because of the pollution and because of vandalism. This is how it appeared when the tomb was first opened. And there are many such images. And why do we have to go through some of these things? Many of you have learned through Western culture about what religion is. So that's why I have to instruct, before you even begin to discuss what religion is supposed to be, the 3 steps of religion, and so on and so forth. And setting forth the understanding that what we're practicing here, we're going back to the source of the ancient African spiritual tradition. Religion is the most important force behind culture. And culture is everything that a human being cares about, everything a human being does. If you want to be liberated as a human being, you need to worry about culture, to think about your culture. Do you have a culture of degradation, or do you have a culture of civilization? Culture of wisdom or a culture of ignorance? And this is what is cultivated here by television and by watching Sunday night football and basketball and the entertainment tonight shows, wondering about what J-Lo's doing. We're going to wonder about what we're doing in our lives today, right now. Forget about J-Lo. That was the point of last night's lecture. And as John Henry Clarke said, Africa will not be free until its leaders pray to African gods and goddesses without apology, without looking to other sources of spirituality to legitimize themselves or legitimize their culture. Ultimately, it's not going to work. They're serving cross purposes. In order to be successful, the legacy of our ancestors must be lived and not just studied and revered. As I explained to you last night, much of the lectures that you probably received, and most likely this is the reason why the room is not filled with people here today. Most of the lectures that you receive, people are filling you with a wonder how great African culture is and all the history and all the things there. Don't you long for something more than that? How is that going to help you in your life? You come for an evening and it makes you feel better. Yes, I can tell you actually how it helps you. It makes you feel better so that you can go on with your life and think that you are accomplishing something and think that you're getting somewhere in life and think that you're elevating yourself. And year in and year out, the speakers come in and telling us the same thing, and whatever happens, whatever changes, life remains the same. Our culture continues to degrade. Not just ours, the general culture continues to degrade. And we wonder why. And like the Sphinx, if we don't take care of the Sphinx becomes covered over by debris. And this is the same as our legacy. It must be uncovered and cleansed continuously so that we may continue to benefit from its glory. And that is what allows us to elevate ourselves. That is what allows us to become great and to remain great. This is a picture from the early explorers of the 1800s as well. This is how the Sphinx appeared to them at that time. There has been, even since the early 1800s, there has been vandalism on the Sphinx. I think you should know that. There are several pictures that exist for the last 200 years that bear that out. When was Vegetarian religion practiced? This is a timeline of world religions. And over here on the left, on the far left, we have in 10,000 BC, we have ancient Egyptian religion in its earliest recorded history. The earliest physical evidence Not that that's the beginning, but this is the earliest physical evidence. Let's go with that, because that's the only benchmark that we can really use. There are other cultures, other spiritual traditions that say, oh, we were here 100,000 years ago, or we were here 50,000 years ago. There's no physical evidence to back that up. None. The earliest physical evidence for other spiritual traditions comes no earlier than 7,000 BC, but this is in the form of artifacts, not of a complete and extensive spiritual philosophy. That does not happen until much later, coming down to 2500 BC in this area here. So all the religions of the world that you know today begin at this point forward. Here, the Indus Valley civilization in India. Here, the Aryan civilization in India. The Sumerians over here. Judaism over here. Buddhism, Taoism, classical Greek culture. Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam is one of the latest world religions that has come about. I just want to show you that to give you a graphic, visual idea of how ancient what we're talking about is. And this development in ancient Kemet is actually, we have shown through the research that this development is actually a perfection of African spiritual teachings. The same teachings that you find in ancient Kemet, you find them generally throughout African religion. As showed you last night, these are in contradiction with Western traditions. And this is why there is a conflict. Shetaut, the origins of the world religions. Why is it important to study Ontario spirituality and Canadian culture? Because documented proof shows, and I have documented these, I have traced them, and not myself only, but others. What I have done, I have added original research, but also I have compiled the research of other scholars as well. And what we have shown, Shetaut has been shown to have influenced Dogon spirituality, Yoruba, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity. And Christianity, what these lines over here mean, is that it has influenced Christianity directly, and it has influenced Christianity through influence in Judaism also. And through these influences, it has influenced Islam as well. And this is all documented in the book also. Although last night we had our discussion, and several times it seems like many questions were being brought about related to Christianity and how to work through issues of Christianity. People have been brought up as Christians. And so perhaps at some point I will be definitely willing to do so, to do a workshop on Christianity and showing its origins in Kemetan religion, in Ontarian religion, but also showing the deviation from that. As I said, the current form of Christianity that is practiced now is not the original form that originated in Kemet. And this is the problem that we have. The pursuit of happiness. Life is really about the pursuit of happiness. You might want to pursue a love affair or having a love of your life. You might want a family. You might desire to be healthy so you can play with your friends and go to sports events. You might like to have a good job. You might like to have your own house. To be having a partner for life. You may like to have a sports car. But then, all these things that you pursue in life, there's always a problem. And this is what the gentleman with his gas can symbolizes, the problem. You stick gas in the car and you run out of gas. There's always going to be a running out of gas. There's never anything that is permanent, never anything that is wholly as you expect. Things always change. You may have a job, but then you realize that somebody else is calling the shots on your job. That you don't like what you're doing in your job, you wish you could change, but then you're caught up in mortgages, you're caught up in strife and troubles. And this always leads to disappointment. Life will always lead to disappointment. I'm not here to tell you that life is going to be wonderful all the time, because you know it already is. And if you're coming here for some kind of a special key or some kind of special word to say it's going to make life all better, that can only happen with you when you adopt the teaching correctly and lead a life in such a way that leads you away from strife, away from unhappiness. Since the world is always changing, nothing is permanent in the world. That means that you will not have true abiding happiness in the world. But people still continue to search anyway. Maybe if I find another car, maybe if I fall in love with someone else, maybe if I eat another hamburger, maybe if I go on a diet and lose some weight, I'll be happy. And happiness cannot come from externalities. Searching for oneself in the world is a pursuit of an illusion. And so what should you be searching for in life? What is worth searching for? Grief is natural to the mortal world, and it is always about you. Pleasure is a guest, and visited by invitation. Use well thy mind, and sorrow shall be passed behind you. Be prudent, and the visits of joy shall remain long with you. Here, use well thy mind. This is the key. Yeah, I'm sure that you know many people. You've heard of them in the Hollywood, or people here in town, people who have money, people who have a nice car, people who have a good job, who have a family, and they come talking to you about their problems. They're miserable. Or something happens and they have a fight with their spouse, or their child is going off and doing drugs, or something is always some trouble. How do you get into these things? Because everybody does it and you think that you should do it too. Because when you watch people on television, they're always smiling. Halle Berry is always smiling, Oprah's always smiling, everybody's always wonderful on TV, and they're always made up and they're always looking good. But it ain't so in real life, is it? Not everybody can be in a size 2 dress, can they? But it appears so, or they like you to think so. It's all an illusion. And following that means that the mind has been led down a road of ignorance. And religion is supposed to be a way to lead to enlightenment. If religion is not leading you to enlightenment, then you're not practicing correct religion. As simple as that. If you're not more relaxed and more peaceful, more abiding in higher consciousness, and in higher faith, then you know that your religion is not working. Shetaut, the definition of the hieroglyphic text. Shetaut is the first word up here, on the top. And that means secret, or hidden, or mystery. And this symbol here means natur. Natur means divinity. It can mean God or goddess. It means divinity in general. Shetaut natur. The teaching about the secret, hidden, supreme being. Shetaut natur means the teaching about the secret, hidden, supreme being. And this is the earliest term that we have a record of for the term religion in Africa. It's important for you to realize that. Because for many years the missionaries were trying to convince African people and in scholars, in schools, universities of the West, that Africans have no word for the term religion. and that their spirituality is really a primitive form of, shall we say, I use the term that a Muslim gentleman told me. It's primitive speculation. I was told by a Muslim person that Islam is real religion and African spirituality is speculation. This is what I was told. What is Naturianism then? The term Naturianism is derived from the name Shetaut Natur. Those who follow the spiritual path of Shetaut Natur are therefore referred to as Naturians. Naturianism. When referring to the religion of ancient Egypt itself, the term Naturianism will be used. So this term will substitute for or be used interchangeably with the term ancient Egyptian religion or Kemetan religion. All these are referring to the same thing. Naturianism, Shetaut Natur, ancient Egyptian religion, Kemetan religion, in this program are related to the same thing. But mostly I will be using Shetaut Natur or Naturianism. Naturian means those who follow, that person who follows the religion of Shetaut Natur. And the specific term for that is Shemsu. That is also used also. A person who follows is called a Shemsu, a disciple, a follower. And this is the specific Shetaut Natur, Middle Nectar scripture that gives us this wisdom of the term. Here. Can somebody close that door, please? Here we have the term Shetaut, or Sheta, meaning hidden, difficult to understand, mystery, hard to get through. Here the term Shetakeperu, hidden creator of forms, Shetitu, or writings related to the hidden teaching. Sheta, meaning the land covered by the Nile. When the water is overflowing, the land is covered, so it is hidden. Sheta, the secret hidden divinity. Shetaut, Aset, divinity in the hidden abode or throne. Aset means abode or throne. Shetai, hidden secret being, i.e. God, divine essential nature.
Can you go back to the screen for a second, please?
Let's see if we can go back to the screen for a second.
Thank you.
There's only African Origins book also.
Thank you.
You got it? Okay, who is Netter? Remember the single symbol that we gave, it appears as a flag. This is called Netter. Another term, another form of spelling is Nedjer. N-T-J-R. So Shetaut Netter or Shetaut Nedjer. Both these terms are allowed. Both these terms are proper for our study. So who are the Naturians? This is the symbol for Shemsu. This part, the second two symbols, mean follower, and this means Netter. So follower of Netter. Follower of Netter. That's a person who practices the religion of Shetaut Natur, who studies the teachings of Shetaut Natur. What is the essential philosophy of Shetaut Natur? Some basic philosophical principles that we're getting into now. Men and women are to become godlike through a life of virtue and the cultivation of spirit through scientific knowledge, practice, and bodily discipline. This might be referred to as a central purpose, a central goal of the entire process of Shetaut Natur. This is what you're shooting for. Now, specifically what that means, that is a matter for much deeper study, for work in the temples, for metaphysics, all of the rest of the teaching that is received, how to cleanse yourself, how to elevate yourself in consciousness. That is the rest of the teaching, and that's the hard part. See, many people I tell you this till I'm blue in the face, or till you're blue in the face. But how is it going to work? That is the study of the philosophy, that is the practice of the disciplines. And we're going to discuss a little bit about those as we go along. The purpose of life, and this is what our institute and the temple is all about. Disseminating that teaching and assisting in its practice. So what should be the purpose of life? Should the purpose of life be to get rich? Should it be to have lots of family members? Purpose of human life is to achieve a state of consciousness apart from bodily concerns. Men and women are to become godlike. We already went through that. Salvation is the freeing of the soul from its bodily fetters, becoming a god through knowledge and wisdom, controlling the forces of the cosmos instead of being a slave to them, subduing the lower nature, and through awakening the higher self, ending the cycle of rebirth, and dwelling with the netters who direct and control the great plan. If you told this, see, I advise you to, if you decide to adopt this, Shetaut, and you meet a Christian person, you have a friend in your family who's a Christian, and they ask you, what are you doing? Oh, I'm practicing African religion. I'm practicing Unitarianism. And what is your goal in Unitarianism? Don't tell me you can try to become a god or a goddess. Don't waste your time getting into that kind of conflict and that kind of debates. Because in their view, only Jesus can do that. But in African religion, everybody can do that. And not in some future time, but right now. Now in your lifetime. In ancient times, there is a certain genre of literature called the Harper's Song. I don't think even some of the aspirers who have been with me for a while have seen me present this either. There's a special genre of ancient Egyptian literature that deals with understanding the meaning and purpose of life. The song goes, I have heard these songs which are in the ancient tombs, which tell of the virtues of life on earth and make little of life in the Netherkert, which is a cemetery. Why then do likewise to eternity? It is a place of justice without fear, where uproar is forbidden, where no one attacks his fellow. This place has no enemies. All our relatives have lived in it from time immemorial, and with millions more to come and join them. It is not possible to linger in Egypt. No one can escape from going west. West is the land of death, land of the afterlife, the netherworld. One's acts on earth are like a dream. Welcome safe and sound to whoever arrives in the west. The Harper is trying to tell us that we cannot linger on earth. We must plan for our departure. And that our acts on earth here are like a dream. If you consider what the Harper's song is saying, it is like when you have a dream in your sleep. Your dream appears to be very real, but you wake up in the morning from it, and then you realize that it's not real. What happens when you go to sleep? When you go to sleep, you realize that that world is real, and that this world is unreal. Which is the reality, then? You see the high philosophy that is going on here? It means that there is something within you that is beyond these changing realms of consciousness. The waking and the dream state. How are you to discover that? state? How are you to elevate yourself to transcend this mortal plane of existence? If you do that, that is called becoming gods and goddesses. You see? And what we want to discover is how that is to be achieved. Because to me, it would be wonderful. I could just come and tell you that that's what it's all about. But I'm here to tell you how it's to be achieved also. And news for you, if you haven't realized it. Many are called and few are chosen. I'm sure you've heard that terminology. Those of you who are here, as opposed to the thousands of people who are out there, you are here because you're ready to pursue some new answer to life. You're ready to discover something, some insight that leads you to answer certain questions that you already have. And most likely, I'm merely just confirming what you already know anyway. Because you have the wisdom inside you, but you have to know how to tap into it. The philosophy is extensive, especially for more details on this, you should go to the book Egyptian Yoga Volume 2, where I discuss the philosophy based on the hymns of Amun, which was just read to you or recited to you by the initiates at the beginning of the program, which is much longer and more extensive. It gives you the entire philosophy of the higher dream consciousness and the waking consciousness and the transcendental consciousness, philosophically, and then through meditation to achieve entry into that aspect of yourself. The Canadian philosophy of teaching, Seba Ur, is an instrument that is held to the mouth of an initiate to open the consciousness. You've seen the pictures of the opening of the mouth. You've heard that term. Seba means to teach, to bring up, to educate. Sebahet is schoolroom. Seba means teacher. Sebat means students. Sebayu are spiritual preceptors. Seba is a single spiritual preceptor. Sebaikaria means assistant teacher or instructor, assistant to the Sebai. Sebait means spiritual philosophy. Seba means the star, the enlightenment. Seba means to enlighten. So the term Buddha, we have shown, the term the enlightened one, that is not the first time that the term was used in history. The philosophy of the afterlife. What is the difference between this scene and any cemetery that you can go out here and see? Can anybody tell me what the difference is? Anybody? What's the difference? Excuse me? I gotta hear you.
The hieroglyphics and Elementary.
The hieroglyphics, the Elementary, that's the difference. What else? But the cemeteries have inscriptions here too, in a sense. The cross.
Inside.
But the cemeteries around here have crosses.
Inside. These are outside.
Inside, these are outside, we're getting warmer.
They have the Uraeus.
It's what?
They have this shown the Uraeus.
Certainly raised. That's a little different. Although you go to Christian tombs in Cairo and you can see that too.
There are also temples.
And you look at the African origins, there are pictures of it. Excuse me?
There are also temples.
That's it.
There are also
That's it. Here we're looking at a temple dedicated to rebirth, and here we're looking at dirt. Dirt that is supposedly going to be revived at some time in the future. There's an ancient Egyptian proverb that says, the body belongs to the earth and the soul belongs to heaven. You are not the body. That is what the ancient proverb is trying to tell you. You are not the body. You never were. You have an association with physical matter that allows you to have a physical experience. That is the end of your association with time and space. Actually, you are transcendental, you are immortal, but you just don't know that. Shetaut or an authentic religion is supposed to be helping you to discover that, to realize that. That is what you're supposed to be trying to do. That is your purpose in life. Purpose in life is not to get rich, not to have a big family, not to have big cars or fame and fortune. All this will wash away. Can anybody name me a person, any person who existed 500 years ago who was rich and famous? It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to care about who Oprah Winfrey is 500 years from now, or Bill Gates. If you think that having $4 billion is going to make you happier in life, think again. The only thing that's going to make you truly happy is to discover and realize that you are immortal and transcendental and all-encompassing. Then, no matter what happens in this time and space reality, you will be above it. There will be no changes, whether you have gas in your car or whether you don't have gas in your car. Whether you have a sports car or whether you have a beat-up Toyota. To know God, strive to grow in stature beyond all measure. Conceive that there is nothing beyond thy capacity. Know thyself deathless, and able to know all things, all arts, sciences, the way of every life. Become higher than the highest height and lower than the lowest depth. Amass in thyself all senses of animals, fire, water, dryness, and moistness. Think of thyself in all places at the same time. Earth, sea, sky, not yet born, in the womb, young, old, dead, and at the here, the after-death state. This is magnanimous, isn't it? This is a magnanimous vision of life. This is Heru, as you can see. If we have a picture, I think I have a picture here. Holding all the animals, he's the master of nature. This is what is being described. And this is what you're shooting for. And here, you are to know yourself in this way. You are to know that this is possible for you. Don't be overwhelmed by all the books. Don't be overwhelmed by all this knowledge that is being brought forth today. You're only going to retain about 40% of it anyway. You have to go back and get the tape and get the book and study it. You have to. That's just how it works. Allow yourself to be impressed by it, though. And I want you to believe that this is possible for you. This has been done from time immemorial. And the loss of this is why we're in the state that we're in now. You must know that this was possible for Imhotep 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, as it is possible for you now. He was made out of flesh and blood like all of us. But he had a mind that was trained, that was purified through the disciplines. And this is what is called the Great Awakening. Mehas is the term. The awakening to spiritual consciousness. And this is Asar, awakening from the tomb, being assisted by his 4 sons. These 4 sons are also pictures of the first Shemsus. They are the ones who follow Asar and they help him to resurrect. Nahas means to wake up, to awaken to the higher existence. In the Perpetual text, it is said, Nupa netera neter ua ashaven. I am that same God, the Supreme One, who has myriad mysterious names. The end of all Netarian disciplines is to discover the meaning of who am I, to unravel the mysteries of life, and to fathom the depths of eternity and infinity. This is the task of all human beings, and it is to be accomplished in this very lifetime. This can be done by learning the ways of the Neteru, emulating them, and finally becoming like them. Akus. Aku is a term that we use in Netarian theology that means enlightened beings. Walking the earth as giants and accomplishing great deeds such as the creation of the universe. Aku is a person who has achieved Nehas. who has achieved awakening, the Great Enlightenment. There are 6 main traditions of Shetaut. Shetaut is the overall national name for the religious program of life of ancient Canaan. And within that, there are 6 main traditions of spirituality. They're all related. There's no conflict between them. In fact, all of them emerge from the single one, which is Anunian theology, Shetaut Anu. All these other ones emanate from this. You should not think of it as a sect in the context of a Christian sect, like Presbyterians versus the Pentecostals, or Pentecostals versus the Catholics, or something like that. This would be like more like a branch within one spiritual tradition. These traditions relate to different forms of spiritual practice, and that is why they were devised. Some are more psychologically oriented, some are more ritualistic, some dealing with more of the wisdom aspect, so on and so forth, to accommodate the different minds of people. And they were spread out throughout the different main cities of ancient Canaan to serve the needs of different parts of the population. Within those 6 traditions, there are 3 main traditions, and these are based on the Great Trinity chant that I gave you before, Amun, Ra, and Ptah. This is the Ra tradition, the Anunian theology. This here is the Ptah theology. This one here is the Amun theology. And what I'm trying to show through this poster, and we don't have it here so you can see them after the program, what I'm trying to show you here is that these divinities, these arrows here, what they mean is that the Anunian theology gives rise to the divinities in both of the branches. So the divinities from the Ptah theology come out of the Anunian theology. The divinities from the Amun theology or the Theban theology come out of the Anunian theology also. And within here is another branch, which I don't have listed separately, but there is another branch, which is the Asarian tradition. The Asarian tradition is Asar, Aset, and Heru, Osiris, Isis, and Horus. From that tradition is where developed the Christian theology, the Christian myth. But that's another story. That's for another lecture. I want to show you that the main thing I want to show you with these slides here is that we have many gods and goddesses, and they're called Neteru, and they all emanate from the single supreme being. And the group of gods and goddesses are called Paut. That's the term that is given, Pauti. All of the gods and goddesses emanate from the single one. So if anyone refers to African religion as polytheistic, that is an incorrect assessment, because they are not studied and they do not care to study. They do not care to understand. If they understood, then they would have to give respect. That means that they are not the only ones who have some so-called elevated notion or advanced notion of religion. But I tried to show you last night that this notion of religion is actually superior because it actually divinizes the entire creation. All of these gods and goddesses, or in theology, represent the elements. Earth is Geb. The sky, the heavens, is Nut. Water is Tefnut. And air and space is Shu. With this kind of notion, you cannot take a step outside of creation, outside of divinity. I'm walking on Geb. I'm breathing in Shu. I look up in the sky and I see Nut. Where is the divinity? Not there. What is not here is the Shetaut, the hidden. What we see here is called Bes. Bes means image, outer image. We cannot see hidden because the hidden divinity is transcendental and we cannot see that with mortal eyes. And this is the same philosophy that occurs throughout African religion generally. And this is why we have what Western culture, Western scholars call lesser beings to propitiate so that they can lead us to understand the higher supreme being. See, in Western culture, you do not have lesser beings or gods and goddesses, per se. You're supposed to revere God directly, or Jesus directly. And since you cannot be as good as Jesus would like it, I don't know anyone who can be as perfect as Christians would like, so you can achieve communion with Jesus. Because constantly, everything is a guilt trip. Now, I grew up as a Christian, so I can say that. You grow up as a guilt trip. Everything you do is wrong, everything you do is a sin, everything you do is a problem. So consequently, you have to be seeking forgiveness all the time. You cannot have a full communion with the divine. But here, understanding and sexuality is heteru and min. Everything is divinized. So everything you understand as a spiritual energy, a spiritual cosmic force that you're living in, working through, and trying to master. In mastering these forces, then you transcend their influence. Therefore, you are not controlled by nature, you are a master of nature. Right? And this system gives us easy entry into spirituality because we can start with a turtle god of the river, or Happy, the Nile. And then that leads us to his relatives, ultimately to the Supreme Being herself. And this is why we have many gods and goddesses. It is actually a scientific approach to allowing a person to propitiate the divine and leading them in an elevating process up to discover the higher supreme beings. So this is not degraded religion, actually it's advanced religion. Anthropomorphic and zoomorphic iconography. Make people ask the question, why is the Nectaru maybe depicted anthropomorphically or zoomorphically? This happens in accordance with the teaching about the matter that is being conveyed through them. On the right here, we have a picture of Amun. On the left here, we have a picture of goddess Heru and the god Heru in their full animal form. And here's Heru in a composite form, a man's body with the head of a hawk. What this means is that this divinity holds the keys to the hawk-like energy.